Lately, it feels like we're all holding our breaths. We watch the news, waiting to see what happens next. A new government has taken office in the US, and the people in Canada, the people all over the world are wondering what is coming our way. How much will our economies be affected? What about trade? What about diplomacy? Will things calm down, or are we in for more division, more stress? Is it going to be 4 years? Is it going to be more? It's like we're all bracing ourselves, unsure of what's ahead. We hold our breaths when we hear about things that's going on in our lives or in the world, wars, political conflicts and disasters, both natural and man-made. We hold our breaths in our personal lives too, waiting for test results from the doctor, like I was last week, waiting for news about a new job, waiting for a sign that a broken relationship can be repaired. This feeling of waiting, this feeling of uncertainty is so unsettling. And it's that space between what was and what will be, and it's really uncomfortable. But why do we say we're holding our breath? Because when we're anxious or afraid, our bodies react. We tighten up and we stop breathing. We brace ourselves for what's coming next. And it's a survival instinct, a way of preparing for impact. And it's also a metaphor for the tension we feel and we don't know how things are going to turn out. We hold our breath when we are waiting for something big, whether it's good or bad, because we don't know what's coming, and that uncertainty is so hard to sit with. That's exactly what Lent is about. It's a season of wilderness, a season of the in-between. And in today's story, Luke 4, 1-13, Jesus finds himself in one of those types of places as well. He's alone in the wilderness, hungry and vulnerable. Then along comes temptation, offering him some quick fixes. Turn stones into bread. Take control over nations to prove your power. And you know, these would have given Jesus some certainty, some security, and some control. They would have made life so much easier for him in that desert. But Jesus doesn't take the bait. He doesn't panic. He doesn't try to force an outcome. Income. He doesn't try to force an income. He doesn't try to force an outcome. Instead, he trusts that he doesn't need to rush or to grasp for control. One of the temptations was power. The offer to rule over all the nations. Verse 5 says, "The devil led him up to a high place and showed him in an instant all the kingdoms of the world. And he said to him, I will give you all their authority and splendor. It has been given to me, and I can give it to anyone I want to. If you worship me, it will all be yours. Jesus refused. How many of us would have refused that? The authority to be rulers of the whole world. How many of us would refuse that? But Jesus refused because Jesus knew that real authority isn't about domination. It's about service, it's about humility, and it's about trust. Jesus refused it, and yet we see leaders of the world who do take the bait. We see it now as the US president pushes policies which give him ultimate power, not just in the US, but all over the world. I want Canada to be our 51st state. I want Greenland. I will take back the Panama Canal. Get this. I will take Gaza and turn it into the Riviera of the East. A reporter said, how will you take it, sir? Who are you going to buy it from? And he says, we're not going to buy it, we're going to take it. Who do you think you are? As much as Trump's followers likens him to Jesus, who resisted this kind of control, he leans into it, forcing economic pressure on allies, using military and economic threats, and deepening divisions. You know, amidst all of this, I was reading up on the concept of the Antichrist. I was reading up on it this week. Here's one of the descriptions of the Antichrist: a political or religious figure. Some traditions, especially in apocalyptic Christian theology, describe the Antichrist as a singular, powerful leader who will deceive people, claim divine authority, and lead the world into chaos before the return of Christ. I believe, and I could be wrong, that we are in one of those times of the Antichrist, whose followers have also claimed that he has been sent by God to fix the world. The damage is real. The damage has been done. Destabilized nations and heightened tensions all over the world, the dismantling of USAID, where tons and tons of grains are sitting in silos in American farm country, and people in developing countries waiting for the grains so they would not starve. It's been 6 weeks. How many of us are holding our breaths? How many of you are holding your breaths? I was telling Audrey this morning, I was so happy to see her. I've been dying to tell her that I heard her son on CBC this week. talking about the impact of the tariffs on his line of business. So many of us are holding our breaths. But Lent invites us to breathe again. Lent invites us to breathe, to let go of the panic. We needn't fear the Antichrist or what he could do in this world, because together we are more powerful and we have begun to rise up. In Romans 14:21, Paul writes, I went through the Bible, I searched for what defeats the Antichrist. What brings the Antichrist to heel? And Paul writes, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. And maybe the real question isn't whether the world will be okay or whether we'll get what we want, but whether we will learn to breathe again. Whether we will find ways to breathe through this nightmare. Whether we could lean into trusting the divine to bring us through. Whether we could get together, become activists, join hands together as a united front, and breathe together and push on through. Whether we're actively searching for ways to move forward even when the future isn't quite clear. Jesus, in his weakened state in the wilderness, man, he hadn't eaten for days and days and days. He hadn't eaten. He was aware of what was going to happen next. He told his disciples that he knew that he was going to die. He knew what was coming. But in his most vulnerable state, Jesus never gave in. He trusted God. In hockey, they say, you've got to keep your elbows up. A phrase brought back to our attention by Mike Myers in the midst of this turmoil. Stay aware, stay resilient, and be ready for what's coming. Elbows up. Keeping your elbows up isn't about playing dirty. Well, it's hockey. Keeping our elbows up is about holding our ground. It's about staying steady in the game, even when things seem unsure. Maybe that's the invitation of Lent too. Not to fight in fear, but to stand firm, to lean on others, to trust, to keep moving forward no matter what's ahead. So today, in the middle of everything that's uncertain, globally and nationally and personally, we are going to take our breaths. May we let go of fear and keep our elbows up. Not in aggression, but in resilience. And may we remember that even in the wilderness, even in the waiting, even in the turmoil, we are not alone. We operate as a team. Elbows up, Mount Zion. Amen.